Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome. I got a new camera that I'm working here, and I've got 3 people, and so I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do this right. But welcome to Foresight TV. We are coming off an amazing 2 weeks with our Evolve Summit, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I have with me Lola Rain, Cynthia Green, and Pam Mcdonald, who's not on the screen yet. But first, we're going to start with our intro. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Okay, and I'm going to try bringing Pam on. I've never had 4 people on, and so I don't know exactly what it's going to do to our stream. We're going to keep it live and keep it real. Oh, look, that's better.
Wow. Hi, guys.
And now I've got to move my camera a little bit so I get all my virtual background in there. So, hey guys. So let's do quick introductions here. I'm going to let each of you introduce yourselves. I always find that when I'm doing public speaking, I'd rather do my own introduction because people, when they do it for me, they blow it. So Lola, let's start with you.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, world. I'm excited to be here with you. My name is Lola Rain. I am the Chief Strategist for Senior Living Foresight. And I have about 10 years experience in senior living, and I've worked both on the vendor side and the provider side. So I'm happy to be here today.
Cool. And Cynthia.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to join you today. I'm Dr. Cynthia Green. I'm a clinical psychologist by background, but many of you know me as the founder and lead of Total Brain Health. And we do what we do because we know that all minds can thrive. So we deliver cognitive wellness programming across the cognitive continuum in senior living and in all communities that serve people over 50 who want to learn to keep their brains healthy.
Good. And Pam?
That's me. I want to keep my brain healthy. My name is Pam Mcdonald. I have worked with Steve on Senior Living Foresight for 8 years and plus a little. I've been in senior living for about 25 years. And I'm a writer. And for Foresight, I am the podcast editor or producer, whatever the term is. Well, I get to talk to people in the industry and learn a whole bunch about what they do. It's really interesting. And I have to say, the conference that we just did, this summit, I just learned a ton more. So that's my favorite thing, is learning stuff. My little brain is still ready to do that. So. And the summit was no different. It's really amazing to me when people share. I just love that. So I'm happy to be here.
Great. So I'll just say a couple of people who have chimed in and chat that you're here, and so I'm glad you're here. Abby, I am just delighted that you are on, and Karen, I'm glad you're here. So let's start with. Cynthia, what stood out to you for the summit?
So
besides your session, I got to stay beside your session, right? I mean, you had a great session too.
Although my session, I was really glad to have the opportunity to share one of our fun activities around brain wellness for people living with dementia and to follow Teepa Snow. But following Teepa Snow, wow. That was, that was a big lift. She was amazing. So many of the speakers were so amazing and inspirational. And I think there were a couple of things that struck me. We're lucky enough at Total Brain Health to work with so many associates on the ground who are delivering our programs, who contact us to ask how to change something for a particular client who for their level of memory ability, or if they have a different configuration in their group. So we talk to people all the time, and we've been talking to people over the pandemic, but to have a summit that was actually for people who don't always get to come to conferences, who may feel, kind of overworked and undervalued, and just kind of, this has been so much on people this year. So that really stood out. And we were so proud to be able to sponsor the Foresight Award to honor those people. And the other thing, just to what you just said, mirror neurons were firing all over the place, right? So mirror neurons are how we empathize and connect and feel the same thing that someone else is feeling. So if you see someone crying and tears come to your eyes. So during the award ceremony yesterday, I just kept thinking, oh, like it all resonated, right? There was so much that we were learning from each other. And that ability to kind of feel exactly what people were going through, to hear the stories, and to give everyone the opportunity to learn together. I mean, I just thought it was awesome.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Lola?
Oh, I was going to say regarding the Foresight Awards, I had to hold the tears back so hard. It took so much effort, but I knew if I started crying, it was just going to be over. It was just going to be a mess. So I held it in my heart. And then afterwards, I went back and reflected on the stories that the winners shared. And each one of them had a very specific thing that they brought to the table. The chicken coop idea, right? Yeah. Bringing in chickens so that the residents living in memory care had something to connect with, right? The warm body, just petting and holding and having a purpose to go out and feed the chickens. Oh, that was probably my favorite story, because I did have chickens when I was a child, and I 100% agree they are perfect companions.
I want to go get chickens for my backyard, so I don't know if I want to do the cleanup is a problem.
But what was wonderful about that is some of us think of chickens as cuddly. But right. And you couldn't in COVID have the kind of usual pets that you might bring in for pet therapy, because they can't live independently like a cat or a dog, right, outside the community. And the chickens, it was just brilliant. And I agree, Lola, and I didn't hold back the tears. And the other thing that was really moving was when the presenters, so everyone who nominated someone, introduced the person they nominated. And for the presenters, I mean, they were choking up and tearing up. So many of them talking about what their colleagues had done and why they nominated them. It was remarkable.
Yeah. One of the things I want to talk about from just a technical standpoint is that when we looked at the nominations, when the submissions, when they came in, to read through them, I mean, they were great stories, but they were honestly a bit flat. But when we got when we got human beings on video to tell the stories, as you all three described, just tears, right? Because they were so impactful. It was just amazing. So Pam, what impressed you about the summit? Well, anything that really stood out for you?
Well, yeah, a lot of it. Most of it really impressed me. But again, the awards, when you had the people doing that job, they were really overburdened for an entire year. And there they were, it was the most human part of the whole presentation. And as much as I enjoyed the subject matter that we were learning about, those were the people who do it, and they were embodying it as they were giving the awards and as they were receiving the awards. And it didn't make me cry; it made me laugh. Not when they was very, when everybody was just so heartfelt. But I mean, in general, it was just like, oh my goodness, these are such cool people, and they don't get enough airtime. They're just adorable. And the chicken thing, I had a different experience with chickens growing up. I had grandparents who still lived on a farm. And when I would go and stay with them, they'd make me feed the chickens. And I was always a very short kid. And those chickens terrified me. And I would have to run in and throw the food and run out again. So that part, I wasn't really empathizing at that part. But I was certainly empathizing with just what a human job it is, and how the fact that they're the people who are mostly relating to the residents themselves, in not providing care, but really bringing out residents. And you could just see how they do that. I mean, they're just genuine people, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
For everybody watching, I want to let you know that we will have a story on seniorlivingforesight.net that includes all of these stories about the awards recipients. So tune in next week to our site, watch for it, and we will release all their stories.
Yeah.
And Steve, I had an idea actually after watching, sitting through that panel, would be how cool would it be next year to have a panel of people who won the awards talk about how they come up with ideas for programs. And, so it's really people who are innovators in the work that they're doing and why they won those awards, right? Like the chicken idea, but also the unicorn idea. I mean, I know everyone in the chat's like, oh, they have to see that, right? They have to read the stories, Lolo, right? But I just think that would be great because there were so many lessons to be shared in terms of how they approached their connection with residents at this very difficult time and how they thought out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to dig into some specific sessions that really impressed you. I'm going to talk. I had probably 4 sessions that really hit home for me. Dr. Bill Thomas kicked us off. He's a friend. He's a hero of mine. And when he talked about life enrichment, he described life enrichment leaders as meaning makers. And it is continued to rattle around in my brain. I would love to see the entire industry embrace this idea that what our life enrichment people are doing are meaning makers. And they're also memory makers. And he talked a little bit about that. But I would propose that we call everybody meaning makers because that is what they are doing. They are taking people who, in many cases, have very limited options to create meaning in their lives, particularly when we look at assisted living and memory care. And then they're creating opportunities to create memory. And I'll get to you guys in a second. The other panel there are a whole bunch I want to talk to, but these 2, because I think they're high-level leadership ones, is I moderated a panel of C-suite leaders, Lynn Katzman from Juniper Communities, Angie Snyder from Aegis Senior Living, and Monica McAfee from John Knox Village. And I was very deliberate in having 2 for-profit organizations and 1 not-for-profit because it's easy to say, well, the not-for-profit, but ultimately that's not true. And as part of that conversation, they didn't know I was going to propose this because I didn't know I was going to propose it. I told them, in sort of asking a question, I said, I believe that the life enrichment leader at every property ought to be the highest paid person. And I sort of thought they'd go, well, that's an interesting idea, but that's not realistic. And you know what? They all said, that actually makes a lot of sense. Now, they didn't commit to do that. I don't want to put words in their mouth. But I think that we are on the verge of a significant pivot point in ways of thinking about life enrichment. So, Lola, let's start. What session impressed you the most?
Well, both the ones that you mentioned, as well as Teepa Snow and Ashton Applewhite. I mean, I was highly involved in designing this summit, and so I knew every single speaker and what the topics were. But I do want to address the C-suite panel and specifically your suggestion, Steve, that they should make more money as far as being in life enrichment. I have talked to so many people in sales and marketing and senior living who used to work in life enrichment and loved it, but couldn't afford to work in life enrichment. And that's why they moved to sales and marketing. So when we talk about pay, I think about equalizing the pay amongst everybody in senior living. And specifically, we know that life enrichment does help retain residents. It helps extend their stay, extend their life, extend their health and wellness. And so I do believe that life enrichment should be paid equally, and that there needs to be a better balance between sales, marketing, and life enrichment, and that everybody in the building should be focused on occupancy, both from bringing in new residents as well as retaining the existing residents.
Yep. Cynthia?
Well, it's interesting to just piggyback on that, because it's part of breaking down those silos, right? And the barriers. That was also a theme, because Lynn Katzman said this, and this from that panel caught my attention. I really enjoyed that panel, that people should just walk into the community and it should market itself. And it should market itself because of all the enriching opportunities that are available to you there, that you go, oh my God, I want to be here, right? Like, I want to be able to do this. And so I thought that that was really an interesting insight in terms of the discrepancy that, we know exists between budgets and opportunity from marketing to life enrichment. And so I thought that was really interesting. I mean, Teepa Snow is always amazing, just in terms of, I think, her ability to really share with people that you can connect with somebody even if they don't seem that they're connecting with you, that there's the person is still in there to find, if you can find the way to understand how to connect with them. And I thought that the Sarah and Kelly's panel was also really great in terms of something I think that they're really speaking to around the value of enrichment and what life engagement is, what activities are, and how the balance of empowerment lays between the resident and things being resident driven, and how we understand the value of those activities, quality over quantity. I thought they did a great job presenting.
Yep, absolutely. And Pam, anything big takeaways for you?
Well, I have to say, Bill Thomas's speech, at first I just was going, he wants to talk about a stool? How is he going to work this in? I don't get it. So he's talking about the 3 legs of a stool, and then he starts in with the meaning making and that. And it's like, holy mackerel, if you really take that apart, that is what we should be doing, like you said. And then I also watched the panel of the activities directors on a more regional basis, and they were talking about ROI. And I started thinking about, okay, we've got to parse Bill's speech and figure out how to get a AI program to to capture every piece of meaning making that we do, because that's what our ROI should be. So let's get some of the tech folks in on that, because we still don't have a good way to measure the outcome of activities, I don't think.
Yeah. I think that how you measure the effectiveness of life enrichment continues to be a really big challenge. And at the end of the day, you have to be able, I do think that if you're going to spend money there, you have to be able to tie that to the bottom line. It's, this is about human beings and about serving people and creating great lives for not only residents, but for team members. But, the old saying, no margin, no mission is really important. And I just am not sure we've done a great job of seeing that connection, because you can't say, well, if I do this thing, I'm going to see a greater bottom line, even though we sort of know that probably is true. And so it becomes hard when you've got financial pressure to make those investments. So,
although, Steve, I'll say, like, something that you had said in a separate conversation earlier kind of resonates with me on that. Why does marketing, for example, have to be separate from what goes on in a community? So, often it would be great if people could see what's going on inside. What better way to showcase what you have to offer than inviting people, and especially now if you're doing things over Zoom, to participate, to have that community without a walls. I know that, for example, Spring Point here in New Jersey has a program where they have a Residents Without Walls, where people can participate prior to moving into a community, or if they're on the wait list, in a variety of activities. And I think there are ways to be creative, and that's a great ROI on those activities, because then you're adding the opportunity to use it as a way of showing the value of your community to perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. Lola, thoughts on this?
So one of the things that, there was two main things that we wanted the summit to really highlight. And yes, the ROI was an important one, because we feel that if the C-suite, if the leadership understood the true value, they would put more investment in it, right? And that was part of what the C-suite panel talked about, especially Monica McAfee from John Knox Village. They went from having 2 people in life enrichment to over 10 full-time employees in that department, and because they see the true value. So that being what you were saying, Pam, about like really finding what that ROI is. It's still hard because the technology is not grown up yet, but it's coming. Now, the other thing that we wanted to accomplish through this summit was giving the life enrichment staff a bigger voice, to really be able to voice what is it that they need, to empower them, to be able to go to management and say, I need this, right? Because people in this position don't always feel like they have the voice, or that they can stand up and say, I need something more. I need more resources. I need more people. I need, it's normally an hourly job. It can be stressful if you're trying to clock out on time and not get overtime, but yet you still have people chasing you down needing something. So that's what I hope that the watchers took away from the summit, is that they have a voice to actually stand up and say, I need this, and this is why.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I really loved coming out of it was that in organizations, sort of 2 things to carry this theme. In organizations where they really understand the value of life enrichment, they are not just saying life enrichment has got this discrete budget of X number of dollars. They're looking at that and saying, we've got to look at this holistically. And so life enrichment and marketing maybe actually should be coming out of the same pot. And in fact, it's interesting, in all 3 of the C-suite people, Lynn was the CEO, but for the other 2 organizations, the life enrichment falls under the marketing department, because it is vital to getting the buildings full. So, and as we had we were talking earlier, Lola and Cynthia and I were on a call earlier today, and we were talking a little bit about budgets. And, there are people who want to spend $500 once a year for their building for life enrichment and don't feel like they're empowered to be able to do that because they've got such skimpy budgets. And to me, I'm going to go ahead and say what I said on that call. It pisses me off. We should not be that cheap about it. We should be willing to invest, because it has such a huge payoff in occupancy. It has a payoff in terms of when you've got healthier residents, they are less demanding on staff, and so it actually makes the staffing equation easier. And I believe that they live longer. You have longer lengths of stay, and the economic values are just huge on that. So,
it comes down to the fact that this is a people business.
Yep.
To me, this is a business about taking care of people and giving them an opportunity to thrive in a place where they're living and where they choose to live. And so, I think it was Lynn who said this as well, this should be collaborative. And so in a way, sometimes, in the conversations around the budgets, it's kind of like marketing gets this piece of the pot and activities gets this piece of the pot. And marketing, the ROI in marketing is pretty clear, right? But as you're saying, like the opportunity, the ROI on activities isn't necessarily, but she talked about seeing everything through collaboration. And I think that might be a good reframe. I know, for example, in our total brain health classes, one of the things we did very intentionally was frame them so that anyone can teach them. So in the communities that have our programs, for example, residents can teach our programs. It's not something that's top down. And the experience in the classroom is there's one person who may be kind of leading or facilitating, but everyone participates in the activity equally. So, that's a small example of kind of just thinking out of the box about a situation where usually in a teaching situation, right, there's a lead and there's followers. But in Lynn's point around collaboration, like everyone has the same goal in a community, or they should. So then maybe rethinking that shifting of resources could be helpful in terms of reaching that goal rather than siloing everything according to the task.
One of the other areas I really liked, we've only got a few more minutes, and I actually have one little video I want to show you because we had this really cool thing happen on the next afternoon, right after the end of the last day, that I want to share with you. But one of the conversations, and I'm going to sort of see if I can tie these two things together, sort of two areas. One is the idea of creativity and not creativity on the part of on the part of meaning makers, but creativity, bringing out creativity in residents in all kinds of areas. And the other was about how do you bring out those residents who don't traditionally like the big things, right? And so any thoughts or observations that came out of that, Pam?
Well, I just think that you hit on something. There are introverts and extroverts in the world, and we're in a group setting. And I'm an introvert, even though I love to talk and I love to meet people, I love to do things. I like to think a lot too. And so, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question, but I do know that having the time to get to know people will make a difference. And you were just talking about TIPA and about that, and about the fact that we need to collaborate. In memory care, there are those people who don't separate. There are those companies that don't separate caregivers and activities directors. They have to do both things, and they have to shift. And I think that could possibly work very well in all levels of care. If there was more of a sense of this is real life, let's make each other better at every moment. Not quite sure how, Steve, and how to systematize it and how to pay for it, but I think it's a good idea.
Yep. Lola?
So this was part of conversation in chat during one of the sessions, is that only a few people will come and do mentoring or intergenerational activities, and you might get 10% of the building to do it. And some of the residents just simply say, I'm old enough, I can say no. I don't want to do that, right? And so it's really hard for activities professionals to find the thing that works for everybody. And so that's why it comes down to customized programming, what works for the individuals. And you're right, Pam, you need to get to know each individual. I had a great story from one of the communities I used to work in. An 82-year-old man, retired banker, never picked up a paintbrush in his life. One day decided to come to a painting class. Next thing you know, he's painting dozens and dozens of pictures, and they're good. They're really, really good. And so that, think of it. He was a banker into money, and now he's into art. And you can bring that out in people, but you need to understand what is it that's motivating them to do it. What are they attracted to? What do they enjoy?
Yep. Cynthia?
Oh, so much to say about that one. I think the customization is important, but I think that we can't think that engagement measures resident happiness. There might be a resident who moves into a community who's perfectly content writing poetry and reading books in their room, and they are as happy as they've ever been because this is something they've always wanted to pursue as a passion. They finally have the peace and quiet to do it. And because they're not coming to your gym doesn't mean that they're not happy in your community. And it also doesn't mean that you have to engage them in that way. You might be providing them with opportunity. Maybe you have a beautiful garden that inspires them for their poetry. That's awesome. The other thing is, in terms of the introversion extroversion, I think that's really interesting. It will be very illuminating, I think, as we look back at this period of time when so much was virtual, to see about engagement. If there were actually residents who never engaged because they didn't want to come out for whatever reason to a group, and they felt very comfortable engaging from their rooms. I know Teresa Perry talks about that, for example, in her ACTS communities, where people love the exercise classes. She talked about that in her session, and that they wanted them to keep delivering them virtually because they loved doing it from their room. They didn't have to get dressed. They could just get up in the morning and do the exercise classes, and they weren't coming to the gym. So it'll be interesting to see those opportunities.
Yeah. So I want to do we're about out of time. A couple things I want to say is, so first off, I think one of the big challenges that came out over and over again was that now that things are opening up, residents have gotten used to using technology, right? And some of them are saying, I just want to do this virtual thing. I don't want to come out. And it's for a lot of those reasons. You don't have to dress up in those kinds of things. So I want to show this video. First, before I do that, I want to say thanks to the sponsors who were there. So Connected Living, which sponsors Foresight TV, they were the conference sponsor. They did a presentation on how this is the time for technology, and we've certainly seen that, and they are a big important part of that. So I would really encourage you to take a look at their solutions and what they're doing. They've got all kinds of cool communication stuff, and then they've got robots, which I think is crazy cool. On Morrison Living, of course, and you're going to hear a little bit more about a really cool thing they did for us. Java Programs Group, IN2L, Discover Live, DirecTV, Total Brain Health, Cynthia, thank you very much, and the Activity Coordinator Certificate Programs. And so, they really made it so that we could deliver this great content and make tickets available, registration available at a reasonable price. So I don't know that I've ever shared off my desktop here on StreamYard yet. So let's see if we can make this work. And hold on, where is it? Let's see. Oh, maybe I'm not gonna. I thought I had it here. I don't know what happened to it. So, well, you know what? We're gonna have to do it on social media. It is up on social media, and we will share it out. And we're out of time. I'm gonna give everybody 30 seconds. Last words. Pam, you're first.
I think we should do this again. I think it should be an annual kind of thing we do. I also think we need to talk about how to help people feel more self-confident. I think activities directors need to build their self-confidence. So I leave that to the psychologist, but I think it would help.
Right. Lola?
So I just want to hone in on something that Dr. Bill said, and it was around age literacy, that there's so much illiteracy when it comes to aging, and that we need to learn more about what happens to our bodies and our brains as we grow older, and to understand that ageism is a huge part of our society, and that we can change it. We can become more positive towards aging.
Perfect. And Cynthia, you get the last word.
Oh, wow. I think that this was an amazing opportunity, and I think that it was an incredibly important audience and part of our senior living industry to provide that opportunity for, and we were really happy to be part of it.
Cool. Guys, thank you very much for being a part of this. To those of you who are watching, thank you for watching. I would also say that the recordings will be available. Some of them are already up. So if you look at that and you go, oh, I wish I'd done that, you can still register and watch all the recordings. They should all be up by Sunday evening or middle of the week next week. So, but you can start watching immediately. So we'll actually drop the link into the posts on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube if you're interested in taking a look. Lola, get a good rest this week. Cynthia, thank you for sponsoring. Thank you for joining us today. Pam, thank you for your wisdom and your support. Pam's been part of the Senior Living Foresight team longer than I think everybody else, right? Except me.
you.
Yep, that's right. So the rest of you, have a great weekend. Thank you for making a difference in the world as you serve residents and your team members each and every day. So with that, we're going to sign off.
Thanks.
Thanks. It's great fun.